She stepped out of a taxi, adjusted her school uniform, and slung her bag over her shoulder. Heads turned as she walked, with a confidence that radiated in every step. Her body was really attractive, dragging the attention of boys. Her school uniform, crisp and well-fitted, emphasized her tall, curvy shape, which had become a topic of admiration among her classmates. With every step, the crowd of students couldn't help but notice her. But she moved through it all effortlessly, as if none of it fazed her. Her friend, Eniola, a petite, reserved girl with a bright smile, was waiting for her just by the entrance. "Vera, you're causing a scene, as usual," Eniola laughed, nudging her friend playfully. Vera rolled her eyes with a smirk. "Can't help it if people don't know how to mind their business." As they made their way to class, a sudden hush fell over the hallways. A tall, lean figure moved through the crowd, his gaze focused straight ahead, seemingly oblivious to everyone else. It was Femi, the new guy from Abuja. He was different, mysterious, quiet, and definitely attractive. His aura had an air of calm confidence, and his presence seemed to draw everyone's attention. "Who's that?" Eniola whispered, her eyes wide with curiosity. "That's the new guy. Femi, I heard he's really smart." "He's in the advanced science class," Vera replied, a hint of intrigue in her voice. As Femi passed by, he barely glanced at Vera. This was a new experience for her. She was used to catching people's attention without trying. Intrigued and curious, she shrugged it off, knowing that her friend Eniola was already enamored with him. Over the next few days, Eniola's admiration for Femi grew into a full-blown crush. She talked about him constantly, asking Vera for advice on how to approach him. Vera encouraged her friend, happy to support her, even though a part of her was becoming more and more curious about Femi herself. One day during lunch, they spotted Femi sitting by himself in the garden behind the school, focused on his notebook. Eniola gathered her courage and approached him, with Vera watching from a distance. Just as Eniola was about to introduce herself, she stumbled on a loose brick and nearly fell. Femi looked up, a small smile breaking his serious demeanor. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm and warm. Yeah, I'm fine," Eniola stammered, her face turning red. She managed a shy smile and introduced herself. They talked briefly, but as Eniola tried to hold his attention, Femi's gaze drifted over her shoulder, landing on Vera, who was watching from afar. They exchanged a quick, almost electric glance before he looked away. Eniola didn't notice, but Vera felt her heart skip a beat, confused by the way her stomach flipped just from that look. The days turned into weeks, and Femi's quiet nature made him all the more intriguing. He was a mystery, someone who didn't follow the typical patterns. And it didn't help that, more and more often, he and Vera kept bumping into each other. Whether it was during lunch, between classes, or in the library, she would catch him looking at her. And every time their eyes met, it felt as if there was an unspoken understanding between them. One afternoon, as Vera was reading alone in the school garden, Femi walked over and sat beside her. Surprised, she glanced at him, but he simply gave her a nod, as if he'd been planning this all along. "You always come out here alone?" he asked, his gaze steady on her. Vera hesitated, feeling a bit flustered by his unexpected presence. "I like the quiet. It's peaceful out here." He smiled slightly. "I understand. I come here to think sometimes." They sat in silence, just enjoying each other's company. And although not many words were exchanged, a warmth began to grow between them. Femi's quiet presence seemed to pull her in, making her heart race in a way she wasn't used to. But every time she felt herself getting closer to him, she would remember Eniola, and her guilt would come rushing back. One day, Eniola noticed how Femi and Vera seemed to be drawn to each other, the unspoken chemistry becoming harder to ignore. Hurt and confused, she confronted Vera after class, her eyes brimming with disappointment. "Vera, I told you I liked him," Eniola said, her voice wavering. "How could you go behind my back like this?" Vera's heart sank. She had never meant to hurt Eniola, but she could see now that her feelings for Femi had put their friendship at risk. "I'm sorry, Eniola," Vera replied, her voice soft. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I care about you so much, and I would never want to come between you and someone you like." Eniola shook her head, her disappointment clear. "It just feels like you're choosing him over our friendship." With that, Eniola walked away, leaving Vera feeling heartbroken and torn. She valued her friendship deeply, but her feelings for Femi were undeniable. The next day, Femi found Vera sitting alone in the garden, her face drawn with worry. He sat down beside her, his expression understanding. "I saw what happened with Eniola," he said gently. "If you need to distance yourself from me, I understand. I don't want to come between you and your friend." Vera looked at him, her heart pounding as she saw the sincerity in his eyes. It was clear that Femi respected her friendship with Eniola and was willing to step aside for her sake. She was deeply moved by his thoughtfulness, but she knew that her feelings for him had become too strong to ignore. "I need to make things right with her," she replied softly, feeling a sense of resolution. Determined to repair their friendship, Vera found Eniola sitting alone in the garden the next day. Taking a deep breath, she sat beside her and looked at her friend with sincere eyes. "Eniola, I'm so sorry," Vera began. "You mean so much to me, and I never wanted to hurt you. I couldn't help how I felt." Eniola looked at her, her expression softening. "I was just afraid I'd lost you. But I can see how much he means to you, Vera. And if he makes you happy, then I want that for you." They hugged tightly, both feeling relieved and grateful. Their friendship was more important than any romantic crush, and they knew they could move forward, stronger than ever. That evening, as the sun set over the school, Vera noticed Femi waiting by the gate. She walked up to him, a smile lighting up her face as their eyes met. Without a word, he pulled her into a warm embrace, holding her close as they shared a quiet, intimate moment. In his arms, Vera felt a deep sense of happiness and peace, knowing she had her friend's support and Femi's understanding. As they held each other, it was clear that their bond had only grown stronger through the challenges they'd faced. The city buzzed around them, but in that embrace, it was as if the world had melted away, leaving only the warmth of their connection. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more great tales from across the world.